I'll tell you that.
So, on the Strangers thing, we're huge fans of Tom Beland. We,
Yes. Awesome.
Tony, my co-host, got me into the original, that small blue, True Story, Swear to God.
True Story, Swear to God.
And you've been working very close with with Tom. You've done, what was it, the last three one-shots. So how did that union start?
Well, basically, the whole Fantastic Four in Puerto Rico project basically germinated with Tom.
Yeah.
Tom lives in Puerto Rico, although he's originally from Napa Valley, California. He's married to a lovely lady, Lily Garcia, and he basically pitched this idea to Marvel, and they went for it, and then I heard about it through an editor, and when I heard that the Fantastic Four were going to go to Puerto Rico to fight the Chupacabra, I was like, dude, I was born to draw this.
You're like,
Like, wait a minute. But I hadn't done a lot of sequential work professionally up to that point. I had only done cover work. So I kind of had to hedge my bets and sort of really convince Marvel that I was the right guy for this job. And when I sort of saw the draft of the script and I got to meet Tom, I was like, dude, this is like totally, it felt very much like, Kismet. It was sort of like meant to be that we all convalesce at the same time. And the editor of the book is Alejandro Arbona, who's one of the editors at Marvel. It just happened to be that team. It wasn't planned. So the team that put the actual book together had a lot of ties in Puerto Rico, including Tom, who lives there. So he's got a very fresh and unique perspective of the Puerto Rican experience.
It's not like the guy who lives in Bensonhurst writing about Puerto Rico. He gets
exactly.
And one thing I love it, he's been living there maybe 5 or 6 years, give or take.
Yeah. Maybe more. Honestly, maybe even a little longer.
Maybe I think close to 10 years.
I would say more than either a decade or more than that, because he's well entrenched in
he knows
Puerto Rico.
the slang. He knows the whole aspect of it.
Oh yeah.
It's not a guy who's like who calls it Puerto Rico.
Yeah. No. And when I went to Puerto Rico the first time for the signing, and I really got to meet Tom and to talk to him, and I read True Story, Swear to God, I was like, this guy, it was very refreshing to hear such an honest voice talk about their lives so candidly and openly, emotions and feelings that all of us sort of feel, but we don't have a forum to sort of express
and
ourselves.
Too scared to mention. To
yeah,
talk
exactly.
About
So Tom is actually kind of important because I had this sort of a reputation as being unknown or mysterious, whereas Tom is like 180, dude. Like his life is an open book, and that has had an influence on me in regarding myself as part of this industry and wanting to really give back to the people that support us. We're sometimes so blindfolded by our work that we don't get to really go out and communicate much, But now I realize it's a real deep part of the industry, and I'm just very happy that I did it with Tom. This ended up being, it was supposed to be a one-shot, and then, we got greenlit another 2, so it ended up being a trilogy, and now we have something that we can sort of really wrap up and be proud of, and it all started with Tom, so he's the man.
The first one was the Chupacabra, then we moved on to Human Torch, Spider-Man.
Yes, in Vieques.
We got M.O.D.O.K in Puerto Rico. How does each story differentiate, and how much fun was it drawing Human Torch and Spider-Man?
Well, in terms of fun, I can overdose on how much fun all of the projects have been. Every book is very distinct. It's got its own history, its own energy, and basically the structure is pretty simple. The Fantastic Four, when they take a break from saving the world, they go to Puerto Rico on vacation.
Who doesn't?
It's just a tradition. So it just so happens that the last 3 vacations, the first one was Ben, the second one was Johnny, and the third one is Reed and Sue. So every character sort of gets to sort of live their own experience on this island. And that was sort of the framework. And then we kind of decided to throw in a little bit of that, B-movie, 50s horrors type of thing. So every book sort of has like a prominent villain that maybe isn't like the ultimate sort of badass in the Marvel Universe. Maybe a little bit campy, someone like M.O.D.O.K. In the second issue, we had Diablo. The first issue, we had Mole Man.
Yeah.
So kind of these villains that aren't really villains. They're like villains in the Batman campy sense. You know what I mean? From the 60s show.
And I also think the fact that it wasn't like an A-list villain gives you a lot more time to play on the island.
Absolutely, and you said it. So it kind of lowers the expectations because Marvel basically said, let us have fun with the project. And I think the talent that was behind it was well put together, that they were confident that it would be a good book. And in fact, it maybe exceeded expectations because I've heard from a lot of people that it's almost like reading a classic Marvel story from like the 80s or the 70s. It's got enough action and enough pulp and enough sort of like, grit that it's a very nice combination of that era with our era. Sort of like to have fun with these stories, and they're not just for adults, but they're for kids as well.
Now, the one thing I do appreciate is the fact that the first and the second one dealt with a lot of politics.
Yes.
I haven't got around to finishing the M.O.D.O.K one, but is that something that you might have hesitated towards doing, or something you said, screw it, I got a voice, let's do this?
Well, that's a very good question. Yes, the first two books we sort of touched upon certain themes that can be construed as that. I mean, especially with the second one, in Vieques, where the origin of the monster, a radioactive creature who, in essence, came about through all of the bombs and the testing that was done there throughout the decades. Obviously, we're using fiction, and we're using our imagination to offshoot off of that. But every story does sort of have a bit of relevance to something that's happening in the real world, And in the third one, it's kind of no different. The origin of one of our characters is an ex-Iraqi army vet, and it was sort of the genesis for him becoming a hero in Puerto Rico. So, we sort of do touch upon certain things, but we don't want to make that the focus. It's just sort of there as a sort of cultural bookmark, so that you can understand the era that it was done in, and the relationship between what the characters are and sort of their origins and backgrounds.
Now, that character you created, which it was here before, and someone flipped the page.
El Gigante, yeah. Where is he? He's in here somewhere.
There we go.
Yeah.
What was the origin of him? Like, was it you? Was it Tom?
No, the origin of the character was all Tom. I just did the visual design of it, and then as we're doing the story, you kind of like put pieces together that sort of make sense for what this character is, and basically it's the story of a character who went through a very terrible situation in the war. And he sort of came back a changed man, and he's dealing with a lot of sort of personal demons and issues. And the Vejigante sort of visage ends up being what saves him. So he becomes like a natural protector of the island to sort of, help with the guilt that he has sort of felt in what transpired in the war or whatever. Although we don't focus on the war, it's just simply background information.
Are you hoping that it takes off?
I would hope that, as far as we're concerned, we've created a character that is officially part of the Marvel universe. Yeah. He'll be around forever. The books are recorded. The character is recorded, and you can only hope that if someone else decides down the line, I think this guy would be great for some sort of interesting story. Maybe you can take him out of that environment and do something with him where it's just more a general superhero.
Are you gonna keep on passing Brian Michael Bendis' office and sneaking in pictures?
Well, you should talk to Tom about that, because I know that they're good friends and they exchange a lot of ideas. In fact, I believe there's a shot of Bendis in one of the crowd scenes in the first book.
Nice.
Yeah, there's like a lot of little Easter eggs in there, so we got him in there.
All right. So thanks a lot for the time. Is there anything that you want to plug right now? Your website? If anybody wants to try to get commissions from you, where can
Basically, my name is Juan Doe. My website is juandoe.com. And you can probably find me at some different corner of the earth throughout the year. So I do a lot of travel, I do a lot of art. You can always send me an email, stuff like that, and I'm always available to chat or say hello or, just, be a good person.
All right, thanks a lot, Juan.
Dude, thank you, man.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Once again, I'd like to thank Juan for giving us his time to do this interview. I know New York Comic Con is very busy and he had commissions, but we truly appreciate the time and the work he does. Don't forget to visit juandoe.com and leave us some remarks and some comments. We would love to hear from you guys.